Will pro-life laws really kill women? That, of course, is the claim of the abortion industry. But is the claim accurate? Let's take a look. This is Beyond the Cover with your host, Gary Benoit. And today we have with us Rebecca Terrell, senior editor of the New American Magazine, who just finished writing an article, Will Pro-Life Laws Really Kill Women?, that will appear in the September 26th issue of the New American Magazine. Rebecca, what do you say to that?
Well, yes, that's all over the news right now. We see a lot of stories of women coming out saying, oh, I wasn't able to have my emergency procedure because of pro-life laws that have been implemented since Roe v. Wade was overturned in June by the U.S. Supreme Court. And the article that I wrote about this in the New American, I wrote in order to help people when they're reading stories like this in the mainstream media and help them pick out the errors, because all of these stories, we do know, it's very rare in life that you can make an absolute statement like this, but all of these stories are incorrect because there are absolutely no pro-life laws in this country or even in the world that that endanger women who need emergency maternal and prenatal care. So, and we can go into that. We can go into all the details of it, but just realize that all of these stories actually are lies. I don't even like to say disinformation. That sounds like such a politically correct term. They're outright lies. And
Well,
I don't have
let's talk about a couple of examples, Rebecca, because I've heard stories, and I know you have heard stories as well, and in fact, you address these stories in your article, that women, for instance, will become pregnant, and yet the baby will die, and so the woman has a dead baby, which is tragic. But there are these claims that when the woman then tries to have that taken care of, to have the dead baby removed, that doctors will not do that because they would be in violation of pro-life laws.
and
Is there
there's
any basis whatsoever to that incredible claim?
Right. There is confusion about this because within the medical industry, the word abortion is really an umbrella term that does include things like miscarriages and stillbirths. What we have to understand is the pro-life laws passed in every state deal exclusively with elective induced abortion. The purpose of an elective abortion is to end a developing human life in the uterus. It is not to The purpose of an elective induced abortion has nothing to do with saving the mother. In fact, Planned Parenthood and abortion clinics like Planned Parenthood are not equipped to handle cases where you are saving the life or health of the mother. And they will say that, and the Planned Parenthood, their website declares that even and admits that. They are not equipped to deal with ectopic pregnancies, for example, where the baby starts to develop outside of the uterus. That is known within medical circles as even before, say, an emergency situation occurs, an ectopic pregnancy is identified as an emergency situation and is immediately taken care of. The doctor isn't going in there to end a developing human life. He's going in there to save the life of the mother. These situations where you have a miscarriage, and it's called a missed abortion.
Hmm.
Again, these terms are used in the medical community, and doctors and nurses understand them. That does not refer to an abortion that is elective, where you go in and you want to end the baby's life. It's where the baby unfortunately died in the process of developing inside its mother, and all of those situations are exempt from any of the pro-life laws in pro-life states. And you'll see it in their terminology too. They'll say exceptions for the life and health of the mother. That's really a redundancy. It's not even necessary to have that verbiage in there, because any procedures that are performed for the purpose of preserving the life or health of the mother are not elective abortion in the first place.
Well, of course, the word health could be applied very broadly, but before talking about that, you had mentioned situations where occasionally the developing baby is not inside the uterus, but outside, such as being implanted on the fallopian tube or inside the tube. Now, in that case, at least in the beginning, the baby would still be alive. Could a doctor address that situation prior to the baby actually dying without it being considered an abortion?
I mean, we have great hopes that medical technology will advance as it has throughout history to the point where we can save ectopic pregnancies. At this point, we can't. And the reason we know that the baby cannot survive that is because there is no blood supply. There is no nutrition in order. So yes, the baby can start to develop when the egg implant or the embryo implants in the fallopian tube. That's why a lot of people call them tubal pregnancies, because usually ectopic pregnancies occur in that fallopian tube. So, but the baby can start to develop, but it's not going to be able to continue to develop because of a lack of nutrition. In the meantime, however, it can burst, it can rupture that fallopian tube, which can cause internal bleeding, and that's what brings about the death of the mother. So you know from the start that the ectopic pregnancy is never going to result in a properly developed human life, and it's going to likely endanger the life of the mother. And that's the reason doctors can go in and take care of that without any qualms of conscience or without any accusation of murder. And we also know, and Planned Parenthood will admit this, they cannot deal, they don't know how, they are not equipped to take care of ectopic pregnancies.
Right, but the intent of the pro-life doctor always, and I want to specifically say pro-life doctor, a doctor who would never consider doing an abortion, his intent would be to save the life of the mother. And an unintended consequence of his intervention could be the loss of the baby, but he's saving the life of the mother.
That's exactly right. And we also have to consider, too, talking about pro-life doctors, we know from abortion proponents, from their own research, that an average of 85% of OB-GYNs do not perform elective abortions. They won't perform them because they know they have two patients. They have a mother and a developing baby, and they want healthy mom, healthy baby. They choose not to perform elective abortion because they don't want to end the life of either of their patients. Right. And the fact that so many OB-GYNs do not perform elective abortion flies in the face of this claim that abortion, elective abortion, is somehow part of women's reproductive health care. It's not. If it were, all of those OB-GYNs would practice that.
Now, earlier you had said that some of the pro-life laws, they do have exceptions, and those exceptions include protecting the life and health of the mother. And I'd like to focus on the word health. Obviously, to protect the life of the mother, that's really redundant because we would not be talking about elective abortions. But how about the health of the mother? Could that be translated to mean, for example, well, gee, if I carry the baby to full term and have the baby, that's going to cause me mental anguish, and therefore I have to have an abortion?
Well, and that was the problem in the era of Roe, which was just overturned in June. And that's getting all of the spotlight, as is the Casey decision that came later and bolstered Roe. But there's a more obscure case that was dealt with actually in this latest Supreme Court ruling, but it's called Doe versus Bolton. And it was a companion case decided upon the same day that the Roe decision came down back in 1973. It broadened that definition of what the mother's health could mean and made it possible for anybody to claim anything, even up to mental anguish or something like that. That's the reason I have to have this abortion. Roe by itself only restricted states from preventing women from obtaining elective abortion in the first trimester. But Doe versus Bolton opened that wide for the mother's health to be the factor that prevented states from restricting abortion in the second and third trimesters. And that's how we've had all this confusion for almost 50 years. The fact that the Supreme Court has come to its senses now and overturned these decisions now leaves these matters to the states, where the states can clearly say, this is what abortion is. This is what the health of the mother means, and you can't step outside of these parameters. So it really, the fact that, the mainstream media is saying that this is causing so much confusion by returning the power to the states where it should be to decide on abortion. They're saying that's caused so much confusion. It hasn't. It's removed that confusion. Now it's very clear in each state.
Well, of course, such laws have always been on the state level anyway. Sumptuary laws and also laws having to do with crime historically have been state responsibilities.
Absolutely, and that's the way our founding fathers set up the Constitution. In fact, the 9th and 10th Amendments in the Bill of Rights say, in other words, if we forgot anything here, you can't do that either. So meaning that all of the parameters of the federal government are very tight, very clear, very clearly stated in the Constitution. And, I thought it was interesting that the Supreme Court also has restricted recently the power of the Environmental Protection Agency. And everybody rejoiced over that, and it is good. But it's not enough.
Right.
The Environmental Protection Agency should not exist at all, and the Supreme Court should be there to protect us from that kind of thing. And actually, there isn't a single federal bureaucratic agency in existence that is in accord with the Constitution. They should all be shut down. So I say, all of these things are good, but we have a long way to go until we
certainly do. But until recently, we seem to have been heading in the wrong direction. Because I can remember, and I'm old enough to remember, that back in 1973, with the Roe v. Wade decision, that at the time the abortion industry was claiming that this would be for rare cases. It would be for where it was really, really necessary, and we'll keep the number of abortions to a minimum. But of course, that's changed over the years, and as you indicated, Rebecca, a couple of minutes ago, abortion is now being portrayed as health care. And you don't hear anything from the abortion industry anymore in terms of trying to keep it rare, avoiding abortion if there's any way you can. It's as if, well, gee, every woman should have 20 abortions. And I'm exaggerating maybe a little bit for effect, but can you explain why that trend? I mean, it's developing death ethic, is it not?
Absolutely. I think that we need to acknowledge that man is both a physical and a spiritual being, and there's a whole spiritual side of this. We know that everything the Bible teaches us, let your speech be yes, yes, or no, no, everything else is from the devil. There is a very clear right and a very clear wrong in this issue, as in everything in life. And we have that spiritual aspect of, honestly, it's a demonic movement. It's killing babies. I mean, we react in horror when we hear about the Pharaoh in Egypt killing all the firstborn, and then about Herod and looking for the baby Jesus to kill him, and in the meantime he killed hundreds, if not thousands, of young boys. But we don't have that same reaction to abortion. It is the same thing. It's killing babies.
Well, I agree. It's exactly the same thing. But of course, the baby in the womb has been dehumanized. It's being viewed as a blob of tissue. And yet somehow that changes as soon as the baby's outside the body.
But you know what? I also have to say a word for the moms, because especially young women, they don't understand abortion is very dangerous for them. It endangers their life in the procedure itself, and it endangers their ability to carry children in the future. And also, the president, Joe Biden, signed an executive order, kind of a knee-jerk reaction right after the U.S. Supreme Court decision came down in June, overturning Roe v. Wade. He wanted to expand access to medication abortion for women And this is very, very dangerous. This is putting. We know that we're not supposed to. No one is supposed to practice medicine without a license. This is letting you practice your own medicine on yourself without a doctor's care. A woman, when she's pregnant, needs a doctor's care to determine if there's ectopic pregnancy going on, if there are different situations going on. We know that ectopic pregnancy happens in 1 out of every 50 pregnancies. That's incredibly common. And when you take these medication abortions, the symptoms of an abortion through medication are the same as the symptoms of an ectopic pregnancy. A woman can easily misdiagnose herself and end up in the emergency room or unfortunately dead. And I think that the action of the president in this executive order is really endangering women's lives all over the country. It's horrific.
One final question, Rebecca. Are you hopeful that despite all the propaganda, including obviously the false claim that these pro-life laws that we do have are killing women, are you hopeful that in the future we'll be living in a pro-life world rather than a world based on the death ethic?
I think we already are living in a pro-life world. I think most people are pro-life. I believe that most people do not think that killing a baby is the right answer. And we see that in the reaction that people are having to media stories. People just aren't. The more the media opens its mouth with these things, and in this day and age, people already are very leery of what they're hearing. I think I saw a poll the other day that said public confidence in the media is down to a low of like 11% right now. And so this is good. The media is kind of shooting itself in the foot, and people are starting to realize this. And especially this decision coming down from the United States Supreme Court has opened people's eyes to, yes, this is not up to a federal judge or a federal bureaucrat to tell us states what to do. We have the power to, we're big girls and big boys. We can run our own show.
Well, thank you very much, Rebecca. We appreciate your time, and of course, we encourage all our viewers to see your article as soon as it comes out in the September 26th issue. And again, the title is the question that we've been talking about. Will pro-life laws really kill women? Thanks.
Thank you, Gary.